Hey y'all, welcome back to New Slang. I'm your host, Thomas Mooney, and you're listening to episode 193. We are closing out the week being joined by the wonderful Ms. Hannah Dasher. It's been about a month and a half now since Hannah released the excellent and charming The Half record, her proper debut. I'm telling y'all, she packs a lot in this 5-song collection. It's infectious hooks and insightful lyrics. It's smart, clever, and fun. And we don't talk enough about things being fun. That's important as well. Obviously, Top 40 Radio doesn't have to leave a bad taste in your mouth or sound generic and bland. It used to not. And if you're not picking up what I'm throwing down by now, what I'm saying is folks like Hannah, they ought to be on the radio. She shows that you can be bold, fun, and serious when you need to be, all the while holding a semblance of pop sense and ear candy delight. This one right here with Hannah was just incredible. We talk about songwriting and recording and finding her way as a writer and artist. Today's presenting partner is our pals over at Desert Door Texas Sotol. If you've been listening to New Slang for really any amount of time, you'll know that Desert Door is one of my all-time favorite premium, high-quality spirits. If you haven't or aren't sure what exactly a Sotol is, I'm going to let you in on a little secret that's going to up the game on your liquor cabinet. For starters, the best reference point that I can point you to is to think about a tequila or a mezcal. Do you feel that Western desert, that Texas ruggedness? Okay, Sotol is like that, but a little bit more refined, smooth, and fragrant. It intrigues the palate and offers these hints of vanilla and citrus. There's an earthiness that often sends me right back to my Trans-Pecos and far west Texas roots. There's plenty to love about Desert Door. For me, it all starts right there. A close second is just how versatile Desert Door really is. You can go full highbrow and experiment with concocting a variety of cocktails that call for muddling fresh fruit, sprigs of thyme, sticks of cinnamon. It's perfect for that world. If you're a little bit more down home, if you've just rolled up the sleeves of your denim Wrangler button-up, it's perfect for that as well. If you're just desiring something that's short and sweet, it hits the mark every time. Desert Door is genuine and authentically West Texan. It's inherently West Texan. They harvest Sotol plants out in the wild and are knowledgeable conservationists at heart. That's obviously something incredibly important to me. They shine a light on what makes West Texas special and unique and worth preserving and keeping it safe from exploitation. Right now, you can find Desert Door all over Texas, Colorado, Tennessee, and there's budding numbers in places like New Mexico, Arizona, California, and Georgia. Best thing you can do is to check out desertdoor.com to find where Desert Door is locally. Again, that's desertdoor.com. I promise we'll get into the conversation with Hannah here in 1 second, but first, I have to plug this new book of mine. It's been 1 week since I announced it, and I really couldn't be happier with the response. As most of y'all know, I live here in Lubbock, Texas, and I've spent my entire life living out here in West Texas. And this debut book of mine is called The Lubbock Way, and it's a short collection of stories and insight about the Lubbock music scene, specifically circa 2015 to 2017. Right now, you can pre-order The Lubbock Way, a collection of wallflower vignettes, over in the merch store. Subscribe to New Slang wherever you listen to podcasts. Follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook too. That's all greatly appreciated. And of course, all those links, they will be in the episode's show notes. All right, enough of all this. Let's get into it. Here is Hannah Dasher. I was noticing today, it's been 1 month since Half a Record came out. And,
Yeah.
I know, we don't necessarily always look at just those little time, those stamps of time as far as, when a record's out by the month necessarily. But, it's been out a month now. What do you feel about, I guess now that it's been a
The
month?
response?
And there's a little bit of, you can get a little bit of a judgment off of something like that.
Absolutely. people have been, I mean, it's all been positive for sure. Considering that I'm not on a major Spotify playlist yet, it's streaming well. Apple has given me a lot of love. Apple and Amazon put me on the Billboard here in town. I thought that was awesome. And was the country riser of the week last week for Apple, and with the Ward Gunther show. And so I appreciate the love that I'm getting there, and on TikTok and on my Instagram stories. People are really, really loving it. But I still feel like I still feel like the half record is a Cadillac in the woods behind some trees, and I just need someone to come and cut those trees down so the rest of the world can know that it's there.
Yeah, it's such an interesting thing as far like obviously I've never released a record, but with this being your first half a record, I know you don't like the EP. You feel it's a little bit bigger than
I
that,
hate that term.
but
I'm a whole record girl. I wanted to put out the whole record. That was the plan. But it's expensive, and I was under a time crunch, and I wanted to get some music. Fans were waiting on some music, and I said, you know what, we've already got these 5 done. Let's give them a cluster of what's to come. And so there we are. It's just, and it also indicates that the whole record's on its way, which it is.
Yeah, well, that's what I guess I was going to point to right there, is that with it being something that is your first release, essentially, right? Your first collection of songs, not just a single. I'm assuming like with any kind of release, there's that moment of like, are people going to like it? You're just kind of worried about it, maybe. What I kind of call like lost in the woods, where maybe you're so into that project, you're not sure exactly what it is because, you've not heard the feedback, I guess, of other folks. And, with this past year being the way it was, do you feel like there was like some added pressure, some added like, anxieties attached to releasing something, especially being your debut, especially being with, a year of where there's so much uncertainty attached to that? What was that like as far as, prepping and getting these 5 songs together and figuring out like, oh, this is what it needs to be, and we need to, kind of get all of the things lined up, I guess?
That's a loaded question there, but a good one. I'm not a one-dimensional artist, so it's hard to pigeonhole me into one lane or into like to one type of a song. Like, because I mean, I've got plans. I want to collaborate with Snoop Dogg. I want to collaborate with Bruno, with Justin, Jack White. There's so much that I want to do, but I'm to the core. I am country, but there's a certain way I'm learning. But there's a way that you got to package it so that it can reach more audiences. And sometimes that means playing ball, but you got to do it without losing who you are. And so that was probably the biggest challenge of me was, I mean, with the exception of Girls Call the Shots, I've written every song on the half record. And like Shoes, for example, was a song that I didn't even turn in to my publisher. Well, I sent it to my publisher because I have to meet song quota, but I was going through a breakup, and I started writing that chorus here at the house. If I was in your shoes, I'd come running back to me, and I brought it to my buddies Jake Rose and girlfriend Trey Anderson, and we wrote that song that day, and they loved it. And but by the time the publishers and all heard it, I was pretty much over the guy. I was ready to move on from that. But my publisher sent it to the label, and because I wasn't even going to turn it into the record label because I just didn't, I wasn't in love with the song, but it affected so many people, and they were so passionate about it, and I just got so much feedback from it. I knew that this whole thing is about more than just me and what I want, because it was up to me. I put out "You're Gonna Love Me" kind of songs, the title of like one of the focus tracks on the record. I put out stuff like that all day long, but I think fans deserve a variety, and I think I deserve to meet new fans and new people, and to try to reach other audiences. And so I think putting songs like that on the record is a great way to do that. Songs like "Leave This Bar," it did well on TikTok, and again, if I'm entertaining, I want to entertain.
Right. Yeah, that's so interesting, and that's probably something I've not really thought about nearly as much being from Texas, where, you know, if you're an up and coming artist and you're not signed on, where you're, sending in songs to your publisher, there's maybe less of that filter as far as like, oh, I'm writing 12 songs, 15 songs, and I'm going to cut 10 of those songs. Where maybe like, obviously if you're in Nashville and or at least attached to the Nashville scene and you have that publishing deal, you have a lot more writing opportunities and a lot more songs that you have to turn in. And I find that fascinating right there, as far as writing shoes, being really, invested in the moment of that song. But then, obviously with anything, you can have those feelings fade from a song, but then it being something that, other people gravitated towards, and you kind of having to maybe like find that magic again in it, or finding those redeeming qualities of why it's a song that I should still cut.
Well, I mean, I write for a live show, and but as a commercial songwriter, I have to write for radio too. But I'm a believer that songs can be both. Right. But there is a difference. But there has to be a good mix of that if you're going to be a commercial artist. And whether or not you like what's on radio, it's still what drives the needle. It's still what puts an act like me out there. And I always say, you know what? It's almost like wrapping your dog's medicine, wrapping the pill in a little bit of cheese so he'll swallow it. Like he might he might be eating some of the cheese, but he's definitely getting the pill. So whatever gets me out there, that provides a way for me to do what I do, because I mean my stuff is genuinely me, and it's country. It is country. There's still guitar left, right, and anyway, I just think that I'm a part of a bigger team like Sony Music Nashville, that I've got to play ball with them a little bit, and honestly, I thought about putting Shoes on the record and Lead This Bar. I was a little bit, I love singing both of those songs. They're really, really fun to sing. But I mean, there were some other songs that I thought had a little more personality to them, but that arguably aren't necessarily meant for radio. Like I'm Gonna Whoop Your Redneck Ass. That song does so well live. Everybody wants to hear it. I feel like it would stream well, but the label, and team obviously wanted me to present, the most radio-esque potentials as possible. And I wrote the song with one of my country music songwriter Hall of Fame heroes, Mr. Tim Nichols. He wrote "I'll Never Use" Keith Whitley, and I mean he's written hundreds of other great songs that we all know. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, there's a lot of people call it politics, I guess, but there's a lot that goes in. But again, I just whatever I put out's got to be genuinely me. And yeah, what were your favorites, or if you have more than one, what's your favorite?
Well, yeah, I was gonna bring up "Leave This Bar" because of Tim Nichols, and I really do love that song. You mentioned him, like writing "I'm Over You," the classic Keith Whitley song. I feel like you're one of those people who, much like me, just devoured the liner notes of all these CDs or records that you got, and obviously, like that's a name that pops up. I don't know, like this is maybe projecting on you a little bit, but I feel like you are someone who you have that large personality, that charismatic touch. I feel like maybe you don't get maybe intimidated by people walking into a room like that. But what was it like, writing with someone who you have looked up to, someone like Tim Nichols?
Oh gosh, it's inspiring to be in the room with guys like that. And honestly, I tend to, especially the first couple of times that I write with guys like that, it's either I hold back just a little bit because I'm a sponge, especially in those cases, and I really want to learn from them, and I want to. I'm always like, well, I mean, I'll shoot my line out here, but of course, Dean Dillon, yours is going to be a whole lot better than mine, or I don't know. But I had to work through some of that. It's not necessarily an insecurity; it's just a reverence for the talent and a respect for the shoes that I've got to fill. And And I think we as creators owe it to our audience to not give them watered down bullshit, but to give them a piece of art that's going to be timeless, that's going to carry them through some, I don't know, some hard breakup or some, party, or, I mean, anything. Like we gotta make these people escape for 3 minutes, and I'm doing my best not to water it down. But I think things sometimes don't need to be deep and heavy. They need to be light and just fun to sing. And my girlfriends that are like my Julia Cole, that are into pop music and all, like, she loves Lead This Bar. Like, that's her favorite. Again, and all my boys, because the majority of my listening audience is actually male. They're all about left, right, and you're gonna love me. And so I think there's definitely something for everybody on this half record, and I'm gonna try to do the same with the whole record.
Right. That's something right there that's, I find, maybe funny that you'll see on social media or talking with people in general, is the idea that like pop music or like pop sensibilities is like a bad thing. And it's like, Hank Williams had pop sensibilities, and George Jones had, like all of the classics that everyone loves. There's one of the main reasons why they love them is because of those pop sensibilities.
And, well, pop is short for popular, so.
Mm-hmm. And I find it like is this weird, like, I don't know, some kind of, like, people think you get some kind of medal for liking something that maybe doesn't sound smooth or something like that. I don't know. It's, you know what I'm saying? Like, you kind of get, like, you earn a stripe for liking something hard to listen to. And it's just like, well, there's room for a lot of music. And if it sounds good, like, sometimes, like, that's the thing that is the harbinger, that leads you to the deeper stuff. So I find it like, yeah. Right. One of the things that I when I was reading through some press releases that I gravitated towards when you said was with Left Right, with you wanting to channel like Beyonce and Roger Miller. And somehow, like, that sounds so weird, but also at the same time, listening to that song, you kind of go, yeah, that it works. Like, you can tell what you're talking about in that song. Yeah. What do you, as far as, like,
I didn't want to channel. That's just what happened. I mean, it just that's just where my head went. Sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Like, that's what I'm assuming you didn't walk in the room going, today I'm going to write a Beyonce Roger Miller song, but it's after the fact that you kind of go, this is where maybe this is headed.
Well, they say you create well under pressure, and Brandon produced the half record, and he and I disagree a lot about rhythm section. He likes really straight drums, and I like which some would arguably pop. It's not pop to me. It's more just swaggy, feel good head bob, like your Morgan Wallen, Hardy, Eric Church. Like, I'm into a swaggy head bobby rhythm section, and that can get a little too left of center to Brandon, and he is trying to, merge my swag with his commercial, and that's why it works. But anyway, so we had some disagreement the night before, and anyway, and he wound up. Anyway, it was so funny. But he came in that morning and the tensions were high, and I just winked at him and elbowed him just to say, I love you. Everything's cool. And he had this great title, Left Right. I love short titles like that. We had no idea what the idea would be, but he just said Left, Right, and Out of the Sky. And it always falls from the same place when it's one of those God-given rare moments. Like, out of the left side of heaven, it just comes into the left side of my brain and out of the mouth. But the quit going left, right on it, that came out immediately. And then all of a sudden, if you want it, you better put a ring on her left, right now. Came right to me too. And he was like, oh my God, write that down. And when Barble, he was on a potty break, he came back, he said, hell yeah, what have y'all got started? And anyway, is that too honest for you? But Win really helped craft those verses in his Win Barble way. I mean, you're hot, then you're cold, you say, then you go, your yin and your yang is showing. I mean, that's Win Barble craft. That's Win Barble mastery. But yeah. And I had just recently had my friends over for dinner. If you're a Dylan Carmichael fan, those of you listening, please check out his music. He's great. But he and his girlfriend, Shayla, wherever for supper, and she's one of those that is after him. She wanted a ring. They've been dating for years and years, and it's time for a ring. And I've got a few girlfriends who are really hot to get married. I am not one of those, but but I've just lately I've heard a lot of my girlfriends complaining they want rings, and anyway, so that was on my mind, and so that was the subject matter. I wouldn't. Again, if you're listening to the song, I'm not the one who's hot to get married. I'm just the storyteller talking to the boys, saying, "Hey, if you got a good one, you might want to put it on lock. They don't come around often. So if you want it, you better put a ring on her left right now." Anyway, so I sent that work tape. I sent the demo to Dylan, and he said, "Are you reading my mail?" I was like, "Why?" He said, "Because I just bought a ring." Anyways, and he proposed to her a week later, and so we all laugh about that.
This episode of New Slang is brought to you by the Blue Light Live here in Lubbock, Texas. Blue Light has long been the heart and soul of the Lubbock singer-songwriter scene and has been a home away from home for some of Texas, Americana, country, and rock and roll's finest over the years. Talk with 99.9% of the songwriters who have come out of Lubbock and the Panhandle at large over the past 20 years, and they'll point to just how integral and necessary the Blue Light is. With live music and touring slowly but surely coming back, spots like the Blue Light are getting back to their usual ways as well. That means music every night of the week. Do you want to see that schedule? Well, I've got a few options for you. 1, go to their socials and give them a follow. That is at Blue Light Live on Twitter, at The Blue Light Live on Instagram, and of course by just searching The Blue Light Live on Facebook. They're consistently posting that week's lineup of shows, as well as those heavy hitters that ought to be on your calendar that are coming up on the horizon. 2, check out BlueLightLubbock.com as well. There they have the full schedule, the cover charges, time, any of those specials that may be happening. While there, go check out their merch page. They have a wide range of hats, koozies, hoodies, sweaters, beanies, jackets, and so much more. You can, of course, get all of your merch needs when you go see your favorite band take the stage at Blue Light. Just ask the bartender and they will get you all set. Speaking of which, that's another great way of seeing who's playing there. Just go to the Blue Light. It's at 1806 Buddy Holly Avenue here in Lubbock, Texas. And of course, again, that is BlueLightLubbock.com. I'll throw a link into the show notes too. Maybe I'll see you there. Okay, let's get back to the show. Yeah, it's always, I don't know, like that. I love just like the serendipity of a song like that, as far as just kind of, being right for the moment. It just kind of coming out of spontaneity in a lot of ways, right? Where I think sometimes we think of you as the songwriter as like, just always writing down ideas, which of course I'm sure you do. I'm sure you have that notebook or that note on your phone of just titles and ideas.
Actually, it's high hooks, high ideas. Mm-hmm. Texas high hooks and high ideas. Honestly, no, I'm so busy with my TikTok and whatnot that I honestly, like, I'm not writing as much as I used to, or as much as I feel like I need to. I'm starting to write more, now, but good ideas are rare. They're hard to come by. And that's why I'm so thankful to have collaborators, because for years and years, I was the one bringing the ideas to the room. And honestly, I wish that I would have saved some of them, because I had some great ideas that I feel like weren't necessarily right for the writers in the room. Nothing against their capabilities, but anyway, all that to say, the more established you become here in town, the bigger rooms you're able to get into, and which has been hard to do that as a woman. I'm not complaining at all. I'm very thankful, and I love that challenge. I'm thankful to be a woman, and I'm glad to be a woman in this industry, and because I feel like I'm different than most. And so I'm rambling.
No, but I think there's what I guess what I was going to say is like about how, you come across that idea just without never maybe having the pressure of trying to find that, of that idea. It just kind of came up out of nowhere.
Yeah, well, Brandon brought. Yeah, he had that great title. Yeah, well, but that's where great things come from. I mean, I freestyle too. So like, like a Oscar or like Dallas Wilson, or I don't know, just if a track a track guy, as that's the industry talk for like a guy that a songwriter that sits at the computer and plays the guitars, or like puts together like a really cool drum track, or like starts a song out, or brings in a really cool guitar riff. Anyway, that kind of that builds the demo that becomes the record. Anyway, the track guy, if they start something that's really cool and swaggy, like Neil Mason, who's the drummer for the Cadillac 3, he had something like that started for 1990s Heartbreak. And looking back, it sounded kind of like Learning to Fly. He's a huge Tom Petty fan, and so am I. Anyhow, but at the time, I wasn't hearing Learning to Fly. I heard the song that became 1990s Heartbreak. And we just basically freestyled over that. And I just think great music or great ideas lead to those magical moments where it falls out of heaven and it kind of writes itself. But you always have to work at it. It always takes a little work.
Mm-hmm. What is it? What do you have to do, I guess, like to kind of balance that, that hard work as far as like, doing your due diligence on writing something, plucking out those songs, ideas, those titles, those one-liners, and then also like not putting too much pressure on a song, because I feel like sometimes you can overhype yourself and like think like, oh, I need this is too good of an idea, don't let it pass up, and then like it ends up falling flat because you've maybe put too much pressure on it. Where do you, I guess, like find that balance? And
gosh, you're talking like a real songwriter, man. I love it, and I bet you are. I can't wait to hear more about you. But that is why I think that's why this is going to be so controversial. But that's why God gave us the marijuana plant. Honestly, I just or whatever allows you to zen and relax and. Some of the most creative songwriters, creators that I know, like take gummies, or some hype up on coffee and some smoke cigarettes and do both, or some just allow themselves to kind of relax. They'll have a gummy or something like an indica strain that just allows you to relax, and that kind of breaks those creative walls down. Breaks those walls down and allows the creativity to flow, because like you said, we can put so much pressure, and I do this often. I put so much pressure on a song, so much pressure on a hook or the idea that it honestly, that it keeps stuff from flowing. And it's a constant battle, and that I'm having to learn to do as a professional songwriter, and how not to get in my own way, and also how not to get in the way of another person in the room who might be on a wave, and you got to stay out of their way if God's given them, the lyrics or melody or something that's magical. I mean, you got to let it be what it is. But again, as the artist in the room, it's my job to drive it in the direction that I would go, and to say it how I would want to say it.
Right. Yeah. That's, I guess, like, one of the Hemingway quotes is about, write drunk, but edit sober. Because like, yeah, there is something to.
I love that. Even I've never heard that, and I think that is absolutely brilliant.
Yeah. Well, like, I'm not a songwriter, but like just writing any, thing, as far as articles go, where I always find, where I get in trouble is like when you're trying to edit while writing. And like, that's what is like those walls that end up being put up. And I feel like sometimes like young songwriters can do that, where they're trying to edit as they go along, or going, well, that's a stupid line, I shouldn't say that. And they hesitate on saying, especially in those co-writing situations, they fear saying something stupid because they don't want to be like, the other person thinking that they're saying something stupid. Or, you know what I'm saying? And sometimes you have to get out of your own way to allow yourself to say something that gets you on to the next line or the right line, even if that's not
absolutely
the right thing.
No, I have no pride in the writing room. In fact, I'm trying to learn, honestly, to say less. I feel like I talk too much, which I do, but I'm so afraid that it's no pride for me in the songwriting room. My co-writers, I tell them, like, okay, think of yourself as a colander. right? So you just, keep what's great, and we'll throw away what's not. But that's the beauty of ADD. I've learned to embrace my ADD. Is that one idea leads to another, and as it comes, and we just, it's like a lot of times we just hit record so that we can go back and catch. Oh, that was good there. Oh, that was good. So I mean, I think everybody's got their own process. I'm I don't have one in particular, but again, I'm just grateful when the ideas come, and I'm grateful to get to do this for a living.
Yeah, you mentioned how, if you're the artist in the room, you kind of have to at least guide the song to where it's going to fit you. What happens like when you're in a room with like maybe like another songwriter, um, or another songwriter who's an artist? I'm thinking like, you've had some co-writes with someone like Ian Munsick or Lainey Wilson, where like those songs are going toward those. The two songs I'm thinking of ended up being on their record. What do you do as far as like maybe whenever you're not necessarily taking the back seat, but like, maybe those two songs specifically were going to end up being on their records, or is it a little bit more mixed up than that? A little bit more.
That's more mixed up than that. But with Ian, I love him to pieces. I do. We wrote that with Billy Montana. What an awesome, amazing guy and songwriter. But we had George Strait was cutting at the time, and so we honestly had George Strait in mind when we were writing it. This is before Ian was like making a record and was really chasing the artist thing, and it was several years ago. Anyways, and then but Ian wanted to cut it, and Billy and I talked. We were like, well, I mean, do we pitch this to Buddy Cannon, or do we take a risk on this young guy? I'm like, well, this Facebook is really huge, and and Billy was like, yeah, we need to let Ian have this song, and so we were like, Ian, take it, and I'm so glad, because I just I love what he's done with it. He has his own sound, and and he and Caroline have really done a great thing, and he's building an empire, and he's just got a really strong team behind him, and hell, George Strait's manager is managing him, so with Caroline, and then with Lainey, that's actually how we met. The publishing company told me about, they just signed her, Sony Publishing, and they're like, we got this new act. We're not really sure what direction she's going to go in yet. We don't know if it's going to be pop or pop country, or, we're not really sure. But, we really wanted to write with you, so I'm like, of course. And I came in with the first verse and chorus of with the song LA. Anyhow, and they wound up branding her EP and off of Redneck Hollywood is what it was called. But they wound up branding that her first release, kind of off of that verse and all. And it's that's kind of a slippery slope, because as an artist, you're like, my publisher is supposed to be like protective of me and of my career, but at the same time, I feel like God has given me my talent, and I feel like there's plenty to go around. You know what I mean? And more songs will come, and I'm thankful that she found something in that she could build upon, and I just pray that she continues to pave her own lane. She and I both rock our bell bottoms because they're wonderful, and there's no rule that says you can't wear them. Anyhow, but Lainey's got that boho kind of thing going on, and I've got that more vintage rock and roll kind of vibe going, and we just kind of agreed early on to stay in our own lane, and I'm definitely holding up my end of that deal.
This episode is in part brought to you by Charlie Stout Photography. Charlie Stout has long been a great buddy of mine, and for as long as I've known him, he's always had a good eye for ideas, for lines in a song, and notably, an eye for what makes a great photograph. Yes, we're gonna roll with that tried and true cliche about a great photographer having a good eye. But it's cliche for a reason. More often than not, it means it's true. Right now, I want y'all to head on over to charliestout.com to get an idea of what I'm talking about. While you're at it, go give him a follow on Instagram and Twitter at Charlie Stout. Right now, he has about 50 photographs for sale on charliestout.com, with a vast majority of those being landscapes and sky shots of West Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona. The American Southwest, if you will. A lot of cacti and clouds, windmills and open roads, sunsets and stardust. He captures a lot of what I love about West Texas and these dry, arid climates. That's mainly that vast emptiness that can really make you feel small, the depth and the weight and the intensity, it's all in there. Right now, he's doing a special on his prints. Each week, he releases a new photo, and for 1 week only, that photograph is at a special introductory rate. For just $25, you'll get an 8.5 by 11. That's just about half off the regular price. For $75, you can get a 13 by 19, and for $110, you can get a 17 by 22. After the week, they go back to regular prices, which are still an absolute steal if you ask me. Also, just a pro tip, keep a watchful eye out on his Twitter. He's consistently posting one-offs, errors, and randoms on there that are for sale that are in the flash sale variety. Again, that is at Charlie Stout for Twitter and Instagram. Head on over to charliestout.com, grab a signed print, buy a record, get yourself some nature sounds and some nature shots. All right, let's get back to the episode. Yeah, I think so too. I've had Lainey on, and I've had Ian on last year on New Slang, and I just think like their last records are just incredible. And what I love so much about, you know, a lot of these artists that are coming out right now in the country world is I think we're getting back to like a lot of artists having specifically interesting vocals and personality and not being
he's
scared.
got a range on her. Ian's got a very unique voice.
Yeah, well, like I think for a minute there we were kind of going into this homogenized, just general Southern voice, and I feel like right now we're getting in a way of going back to where a lot of songwriters and artists are having distinct personalities and are allowed to have like unique voices. My go-to example of this is like, you know, someone like Reba McEntire sounds like Reba McEntire, right? And that's forever gonna, if you ever even, you can just hear her little hey kind of thing and know that's exactly her.
Yes.
I think like now we're kind of getting back into these moments where artists are allowed to have like their own specific unique voices. Like you sound like yourself. I'm thinking of like Hailey Whitters sounding specifically like Hailey.
She reminds me of Lori McKenna too. But I mean, I think we tend to sound like our influences. Like look at Clint Black. Clint Black arguably sounds like young Merle Haggard. Mm-hmm. I mean, Sammy Kershaw had some nuances of George Jones. So did Alan Jackson. And a lot of people will accuse me of some of my high notes sounding like Dolly. Or Lori Morgan, or I don't know. In my mind, if I could sound like anybody I wanted to, it'd be Aretha Franklin. But I'm so thankful to have been exposed to such great music. Like Mother made sure I had Aretha Franklin and Motown and soul, and Trisha Yearwood and Patsy Cline and Elvis and I have to and Hank Jr. Daddy made sure I had the Hank and the Kansas and the Southern rock and roll and all that good stuff too. So I feel like I'm a product of everything that I love, and that is what makes me unique. Just like you, or just like Ian. I mean, no one sounds like him, and he is a product of everything that he loves, like that bluegrass, that fiddling, and all the great like pop music that he loves. Like that's uniquely him, and boom, there's his own lane.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think like what it is like. A lot of these artists right now they're not scared to sound like themselves, like there's something very comforting as a consumer of music of that, like, oh, you know what? Like I can just get these pockets of these artists who sound like where they're from or like what their background is and, aren't scared to sound like themselves. And that's one of the things I appreciate. Yeah.
Good. Well, send me more of those artists because a lot of people I'm hearing sing with those fake accents, and I don't. That's not my thing. I'm talking about the accent singers. Like you don't talk like. Are you British, or what is that accent? I don't really know.
Yeah, there's plenty of folks. In saying that, there's plenty of folks I know who I've talked to them on the phone, and then it's like, well, this is where the recording starts, and then you can just feel like that accent come on. So yeah.
God. Right.
Um,
Yeah. Well, and there's plenty of acts too, guys and girls that I like too. I mean, if I had a manager, she'd be sitting here elbowing me saying, "Don't say that." But I mean, but again, I think that's what makes some of us unique. Is that no, we're not afraid. I'm not afraid to sound like me. Hell, I'm not afraid to dress like me too. I've been stuffing my bra since I was 7 years old because I've always wanted big boobs. I couldn't wait to go bra shopping. I couldn't wait to start to try on makeup and stuff. But hell, I don't have to sing about makeup in my songs because that doesn't turn me on. So, and again, that makes me different as a woman artist here.
yeah. Now let's go back for a second as far as like when you moved to Nashville. Um, I always think that, being down here in Texas, like there's this like weird stigma against Nashville for some reason, as far as it being the
Right.
establishment, and that there's nothing, I guess, organic or real that comes out of Nashville or something like that. But I think if you talk to anyone who's
Don't hold
legitimate,
back.
well, I think if you talk with anyone who's legitimate, like who's spent time in Nashville, legitimately spent time, and understands that a lot of these Texas artists, they're cutting records up in Nashville and they're writing in Nashville. Um, I guess like my point of all this is that you know you go to Nashville, and I think there's something to the whole iron sharpens iron, as far as you getting
Yeah.
into these places where you are writing at a much more rapid rate. Um, how was that like? When you first moved there, and kind of just jumping on the treadmill, if you will, and getting into these rooms and like trying to like having to like navigate these rooms, and I guess sharpen those early skills, and kind of maybe I think everyone has to probably do some self-analyzing, going, oh, I got to get a whole lot better. What were those early days like?
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, I'm still, like I said earlier, I'm like a sponge. I'm still trying to learn and trying to improve my craft. But I've always been I'm a deep thinker and I'm a deep writer, and I guess that's why I've taken so much to like Eric Church and his music because it is deep. Casey Beathard and uh, uh, Jeremy Spillman and Jeff Hyde and guys like that, Michael Heaney, like they are brilliant minds, and they're deep thinkers, and that's what I like to listen to a song that I can get something different from each time I listen to it. I'm not hearing the same thing over again, and kind of like a movie, a really good movie, you can always get something new from it. But I have to realize as I grew into my professional songwriting career, and as I'm still growing as a professional songwriter, I have to realize that I'm writing for more people than myself. I'm writing for that guy who's got a bunch of kids in the back who are fussing, who's headed to the grocery store with a million things on his mind, and he just needs 3 minutes of something that's going to get him away, something that he doesn't have to think about too hard, while he can still hear a conversation in the background. He needs songs like that too. And just like the Eagles' "Peaceful Easy Feeling," I think hit at a time, they said, where people kind of needed that affirmation and they needed that escape. And I think people still need things like that. So there's got to be a balance. I think you've got your deep cuts, but I think you've got your songs that are lighter. I think there's a place for that, even though I don't know. I try to do both.
Yeah, like that the escapism of music is very important, and I think sometimes we forget about that. Uh, like my go-to example is Toby Keith with "Should Have Been a Cowboy." You know, like the people who are
Yeah.
listening to those music, or to "Should Have Been a Cowboy," probably aren't like real cowboys. They're not like working on ranches in like on the frontier or something like that. But it's the necessary escapism, that 5 minute break for people as they're going to Walmart, or or picking up the kids from
You're
school or
right.
whatever.
Well,
So
and most of the world isn't. Most of us aren't cowboys. So I should have been one. Works. I think we can all relate to that. Golly, what a brilliant song! What a great songwriter. He's
y-
he's great.
yeah, the I know you like you're a '90s country fan. I'm a big '90s country fan. I always like. I think Toby kind of will get shit for stuff, but a lot of those '90s songs are just just classic of his. Like, and
He's amazing.
yeah.
And Travis Tritt. Travis Tritt, I don't think gets the credit that he deserves. I think he ought to be in the Hall of Fame. Personally, I think he is. He's, I would say, one of my. The older I get, the more I just respect him and his craft and his talent as a guitar player, but especially as a songwriter, vocalist. Because I mean, I'm a country rock and roller, and he popularized that, like as did Hank Jr. before him, and Hank's obviously one of my number ones.
Mm-hmm. Right. Like I don't know. Like I just love like the '90s stuff as far as having those pockets of music. I don't know. I keep on returning to that thing or that theme right there.
Well, it's nostalgic.
Yeah.
Happy time.
Well, yeah. Like as far as like even like the '90s goes, you were mentioning kind of like the more rock and blazing stuff, or like, you have like the pocket of like the California country, the Bakersfield sound, where Dwight Yoakam is kind of bringing the resurgence of that in the '90s. Or you mentioned Clint Black. Killing Time is probably like in my top 10 records of all time. I just think that record is a perfect record.
My God, walking away, I saw a side of you, the factory, whatever, nothing's news, honey. I got the cassette tape sitting over here, still with the dust on it. I hear you. It's one of my top 10 records from childhood for sure. You got good taste.
I just think like the I don't know, like the tone of all those guitars and the pedal steel is just specifically like, I don't know. I can feel like if you put that on, I don't know. I can visualize like the smoke coming into my room, and then like just getting put back in like as a kid in like the cab of my dad's truck or something like that. It's just, I don't know. It's still so fucking perfect of a record.
You could just him, Dwight Yoakam. That's more '80s, but '80s and early '90s. There's so much effort, and Alan Jackson. It's so much effort, William Money, and time and talent went into making those records down to every detail of like I can't tell you instrument solos nowadays, but I have every solo memorized in my mind of songs that I grew up listening to, because they were like every detail of the song was crafted, and you know what I'm trying to say. I just think everything mattered. And it wasn't as much of a process. It was like, let's get product out. But again, I'm sure people could argue both sides. There's some great stuff out there today, and I'm very thankful to be at an early, up and coming part of this generation.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Oh, what I was gonna say is like, I got a buddy here in Lubbock, Randall King, who of course, yeah, he's one of these guys who he's going back and forth, yeah. But he one of the early things I described him with was a neo-traditional revivalist, and like that's, I think, like what's happening big time right now in Nashville, or at least these pockets. It feels, maybe that's one of those things. If you're focusing on it, that's what you see. But I really love like that we're kind of getting these throwbacks. For a time. You mentioned Dylan Carmichael. I mean, that's another guy who's really, drawing from that '90s country well.
That's his blood, and that's John Michael's nephew. And Eddie Montgomery's. He gets. Absolutely. Well, Cole Swindle told me a long time ago. He said, "You got this '90s country thing about your voice, sister." He said, "Don't ever lose it." And I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I just seem like I'm just, like I mentioned earlier, I'm just a product of my influences. But I told Brandon when we were going in to cut all these songs, I was like, like Bruce Boughton is playing steel guitar. And as you know, he toured with Garth and Trisha and Brooks and Dunn. And he was a part of Brooks and Dunn's career from the beginning. And I did a lot with Reba. And so you'll hear a lot of that. Like there'll be times where if I'm hearing like a part of a song and I'm like, oh, that reminds me of like an old Reba song, or, oh, that reminds me of, some Alan Jackson. That reminds me of Brandon and I agreed that there was a way to bring back the '90s country, sound like I wanted people to feel at home. I wanted it to be something very familiar. about it, because I'm very throwback. Hell, it's the way I live. My Lord, I'm dressed like I walked out of 1980 right now. I'm walking around my house with my vintage high-waisted Wranglers on and my little ruffly top, but looking at my 1954 sofa. So, but I feel like there is something new and fresh that I can't put my finger on, but it's just, Brandon found a way to embrace the Hannah in it too, and to package it in such a way that is fresh.
Yeah. Well,
And that's
oh, go ahead.
here. No, go ahead.
Well, when it comes to those conversations with Brandon, as far as him being the producer, you being the artist, and trying to form what that sound's going to be for a record, I think a lot of people like me, we probably don't have like the vocabulary, the language to tell them, this is what I want to sound like. This is what. So do you bring reference points of previous records or old records that you're kind of going, I feel like this song has this kind of feel? What are those conversations like, I guess?
Sometimes I will bring a reference track, or a tempo. I mean, and it could be Alt J, or it could be, it could be a Jack White thing, or it could be a Justin Timberlake thing. Well, rarely, but I love him. But I just think as a whole, we didn't want to necessarily package it and force anything to be what it wasn't. I just think every song just is uniquely me, and that's why it has this continuous vein, going look at this. It has a backbone that's still similar. It's still it still all works together. And that's something that it took me years, like as an artist, I guess, to I don't know. I mean, I have songs that are all over the place in a good way, but I just think that you can't, as an appetizer, you can't give them the main course just yet. You got to give them a little something to chew on, give them a little this, a little bit of that, some nibblers, and then you break them in, and then you feed them the main course.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of appetizers and main courses, Stand by Your Pan. Like I love that series. I love that, like, you mentioned. Right. How you're not just that one-dimensional person. That's one of those things I really actually, I'm going to go off on a sidebar here, a tangent here. As far as artists go, I love that, like, I think for a long time we've gotten the idea of, like, if you're a guitar player, you're just a guitar player. If you're a songwriter, you're just a songwriter. If you're a singer, you're just a singer. And we need to, like, kind of scrape away that idea, that impression of the artist, because the artist is just kind of, if you can be the songwriter, the player, you can be a painter or a sculptor or, a writer in general. And I feel like this past year we've with the quarantine, or I guess it was technically last year, I think a lot of artists, they started going and finding those other things that they were interested in, artist-wise, art-wise, and re-embracing them. You with the cooking side of things, I'm assuming, obviously that's something that's always been a part of you that you've always loved. But at what point did you feel like that was something that you could curate and make into, a show, because that's essentially, even if it's on TikTok, it's a show,
I love
it. So yeah, so like, I guess, like, at what point did you figure that, like, that was something that you needed to embrace and show off and share?
Well, we were obviously in quarantine, and I kept hearing everyone talk about how they were spending $1,000 a month on their grocery bills. And because, what do you do when you're shut in the wintertime? You cook, right? And my mother had the funny idea. She said it as a joke years ago, stand by your pan, because I'm a Tammy Wynette fan, obviously, and we all love to cook, and my family loved to cook. But I hurried over to my lawyer's office when I got back to Nashville, and I trademarked it and just set it aside, because I thought, okay, maybe one day I could host like a late night comedy infused, like Jimmy Fallon meets Paula Deen cooking show, where I host my musical guests. Again, that's after Hannah's established as a country artist, because that is goal number one. But I had this TikTok platform that I knew I needed to figure out. And my dear friend Johnny Clarity told me that he knew TikTok. He told me about 2 years ago that he knew that this TikTok platform was really going to take off, and I needed to try to use it to my advantage to showcase my personality. And so it took me a little while it took me about a year to figure out how to use it. But now it's my preferred vessel for editing video, making video. But but yeah, I just knew that there's more to me than just my music. And so, I'm under contract, so I couldn't release music unless the label gave me permission to do that. And I was like, well, the world needs more of me. How do I showcase me? So anyway, I just started doing TikTok, and there we go. The recipes took off. I had no idea it would do that, but it was really humbling, Thomas, though, because it just introduced me to an audience of people that were shut in, and just it was like they say it's like their 30 seconds or 50 seconds of joy for the day, and it really humbled me, and it really made me realize that this shit's a whole lot bigger than me, and it's not about me at all, but it's really about furthering God's kingdom and bringing joy and love to others. And I'm literally a tool that's here to entertain and to help people escape. I know I said it 4 times, but anyway, it just really, ultimately, it started this emotional, spiritual revolution within me. I'm talking like a hippie because I am one, but it just, it's really been good for me. And now I can't go to the grocery store without taking a picture with somebody, or to the airport, or, I was walking to the sound booth at Country Concert Festival when John Party was playing, and it was like a wave of they had to have 3 security guards escort me at the thing. I was like, I'm not Elvis at all, but the outreach that the app has had, it's just wild, and I'm just dying to get out there on the road and on the radio.
Yeah. I think it's a good thing. I'm gonna throw you a softball here because I think I already know the answer, but I guess songwriters never worry about running out of songs. You're never gonna worry about running out of recipes or anything like that?
That's so funny that you say that. Honestly, I just kind of pull them out of my behind anyway, and and I love to eat. People love to eat, and I post enough content on there. I feel like I can repeat some things if I need to, and I have repeated some recipes, but I'll put a new twist on them because I don't want to feed people the same old content. I'm trying to give them something fresh and honest. But heck no, I don't think they'll run out of recipes. But I tend to stick to. I kind of like to eat the same things, and But I do try new stuff though.
Yeah, I'm assuming you'll have. All right, I didn't actually even look this up, but a cookbook or something in the works or something down the line.
Yes. That's a project we had to put off to next year, but I've got my booking agency working on that and helping me with that so that I can try to get that out. And we've got some Stand By Your Pan merch out there. I'm wanting to add to my merch line. If you see any money going on a tree somewhere, please let me know. I know that, but the label's been so good about buying my clothes and all that good stuff and helping me with. Well, it comes out of my wallet. Who are we kidding? Eventually, but anyway, but yeah, there's a lot that I want to do, and I'm growing my team right now so that I can be able to do things like that. But yeah, I've got the recipes digitally written down, and I'm always adding to that. And I got some fun ideas about that. So thank you. But it'll be next year, probably around Christmas time.
Well, see, that's the perfect time for something like that. So
that's the goal. Yeah.
Well, I'll get it for everyone in my family. So we'll do that.
I stand by your band too, man. So are you a musician, Thomas? I mean, obviously,
No,
right?
I'm not a musician, and I can't play anything. I can maybe hit a chord if you give me 5 minutes of prep time beforehand on the guitar. But no, I do not play nothing. I'm not a songwriter or anything like that. But just I guess I've been around it a little bit enough to, I more than anything, I'm just a good listener, and so just pick up on what people say and kind of rehash it and form up my own theories on what's happening in music.
Well, I mean, you're uh, very well read, obviously, and well researched, and I can't thank you enough for being so thorough and making time for my little country butt. Well, my butt's not little, but you know what I mean. In the scheme of things, I am small and I am new, and so I appreciate you giving me the voice, and shedding light on what it is that I do. I appreciate it. I can literally feel the frustration of because I read all my fans' comments, and it's all like, when are you going to be on the radio? Like, why aren't you on the radio yet? When are you going to be on the radio? And it's just, all those things take time. And so we're just trying to get the gun loaded before we head that way. But we definitely will.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I've enjoyed listening to what you've had out, and you've kind of been one of those names on one of these long lists of spreadsheets that I have, because I'm one of those people who have like spreadsheets of when records are supposed to be coming out and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I've been wanting to have you on for a minute now, and yeah, I've thoroughly enjoyed having you take a little bit of time for this conversation.
Honey, thank you for making time for me. And God, I feel like a cocky little whatever. I feel like I'm talking about myself this whole time. But I guess that's kind of the point. But still, it's like I'm just interested in people that's going away. I know y'all got a story to tell, and that's kind of where I pull songs from too. And just shutting up and listening to other people. And I appreciate you.
Okay, that is it for this episode. Go check out The Half Record by Hannah Dasher. Stop over and visit our pals over at Desert Door, The Blue Light Live, and Charlie Stout Photography. Go pre-order The Lubbock Way, a collection of wallflower vignettes by yours truly, out next month. And yeah, thanks for listening, and I'll see y'all next week for more new slang.